acknowledging a little bit of the extra detail that was shared today around Matariki beginning from 2022. We convened a group of experts to help support the first dates for Matariki. Of course, as you all know, Matariki changes based on many factors. We wanted to bring in those who had the expertise in order to establish those first dates. While they've given us the first date of the 24th of June 2022, they'll now begin work on future dates. So we expect to be able to give over several years the dates where Matariki will be celebrated. We expect, however, it will be on Fridays or Mondays. This, for us as a government, is representative of the kind of work we want to do to make sure we support other initiatives like learning history in schools. Matariki is a uniquely Maori and therefore New Zealand-based celebration to acknowledge the Maori New Year. In our view, it's been a long time coming. My hope is that we will also use the New Zealand history curriculum to teach some of the wider knowledge that should accompany Matariki. Oh, that would be a question for the experts, but of course a lot around celestial mapping, and that would have been, as I understand it, the primary basis on making that decision.
Well, do you expect any pushback?
Does anyone from the Māori caucus wish to expand on Kelvin?
Yeah.
No, I'm just delegating.
Well, thank you. I guess you can say the stars.
Celestial navigation.
Yeah, the stars are coming into alignment, I guess you could say. Look, it is a celebration around Te Ao Māori, and there are a number of factors that the group brought together, when Matariki rises, and as the Prime Minister said, it's really over to their expertise. We didn't want to interfere and make it a political thing. This is entirely about the Māori experts actually making those decisions.
Do you expect any pushback?
The short answer, though, is that the celestial calendar doesn't align with the Gregorian calendar. And the knowledge base that is drawn to be able to determine the dates is based on the navigational knowledge of our people who actually helped over many years of time to actually get us here. So that's really the reason why. And that's also the reason why there'll be a sliding set of dates within a period of time aligning with the celestial calendar to be able to determine the best time to celebrate Matariki.
That's why we had people like Jack Thatcher and Hotaroa Barclay Kerr as part of that group, experts in celestial navigation, inputting with that wider group into what those dates would be.
What about the impact on the...
Do you expect people will now be setting their calendars for next year, deciding where they'll go, how they'll celebrate it?
Oh, look, I certainly hope that people do, that they do look forward to this additional public holiday in our calendar. But I also hope it's used as an opportunity to learn more about Matariki, and it will, as many people have pointed out, break up the year at a time when it can feel a little bit long.
You cited Ihumātao and Oranga Tamariki. Have you really shifted the dial on things like housing, health, justice, education that were again brought up on the paper?
Oh, and look, and I proactively raise these issues for good reason. Have we seen the seismic shift in a 12-month period? No, but nor would we expect to. What we must continue to do, though, is acknowledge that there are unique solutions to some of these problems that we have to work together on. Oranga Tamariki is a prime example. Here, you've got the Minister working alongside those who have been some of the greatest critics of the way Oranga Tamariki has worked in order to provide us with new ways of doing things, support to change the system, and ultimately make sure that our children get the very best possible.
But how often can you keep coming back to Waitangi saying there's more to do, without really having made significant progress on those entrenched and important
So the
challenges?
the point that I was making here today is there will never be a time, I think, if we are honest with ourselves, that we will stand here at Waitangi and say that we have reached a point of perfection. There will never be a time, because there will always be challenges. Some will be those entrenched ones that we have been working on as a nation for decades, and others will be new to us. But what is important is that we fundamentally change the way we resolve them. That's the shift we've been looking for as a government.
They can't be resolved?
No, not at all. No, not at all. But I think it's unrealistic to say that we would never have, a new issue that would arise that we would need to resolve. That is the nature of a relationship that is based on te tiriti. It's designed to help us navigate whatever problem arises. But I'll never ever give up on making sure we make progress on corrections, housing, health. It is our duty to.
Prime Minister, you coined a new phrase today, foundational change. Was transformational change too hard?
No, not at all. But look, when you look at these examples, the things that will stand us in good stead for changing the way that our next generation thinks about New Zealand, who we are, things like learning history in schools, those are the things that lay the foundation for us doing things differently.
It is a change in messaging though, isn't it?
Oh, no, I just like to make sure that every time I come to Waitangi I say something that demonstrates that we are continuing to think about the way we do things. Now, we've always been a government that says, look, we acknowledge our problems and we will keep working on change to fix them. However, we also have to acknowledge that the way we've done things has sometimes been part of the problem too.
Do you think, though, that those...
Do you think it was fair that Judith Collins wasn't able to speak today?
Yeah, look, the decisions around who speaks and how they speak, those are made by the trust. But look, I was heartened to hear at the end of the pōhiri that call and that decision essentially being made that next year it would be different. I think it would be fantastic to give the ability of all leaders to be able to speak, just as I have that privilege.
Do governments need to devolve more power to Māori? There was mention in one of the whaikorero about, in terms of Māori health, Māori should be able to do it for themselves. It is their people.
And look, these are the very debates we're having in the establishment of the Māori Health Agency. Our starting point should be what we've done to date hasn't worked. How are we going to do it differently? We have significant inequalities, and so that's what we're trying to work through. What will make the biggest difference? It has to be, though, about giving a seat at the table. We've already done that with the DHBs, now we need to keep going.
Is the seat at the table enough, or does it need to be significant shifting of power?
I think there does need to be a change in the way that we are offering health services and how decisions are made and how resources are used. And that's exactly the discussion we're having as a government with those health providers.
Māori inequities that were raised around suicide and health
Yeah.
and housing on the Are you choosing kind of easy wins like Matariki over addressing
No.
those much tougher challenges?
No, I myself offered up and discussed and raised those fundamental issues that for decades we've been taking on, because they are at the forefront of what we are trying to do as a government. I will always be honest about those.
You asked 4 years ago to be held to account by that sort of stuff, and the stats haven't changed, and Māori are still massively overrepresented in a number of negative statistics. So, sort of back to Jane's question, how often do you come back before there needs to be some real change on show?
Well, firstly, I will never stop coming. So long as I am in this role, I will be here. Secondly, the idea that we haven't made progress, I would challenge. Have we reached perfection? Absolutely not. And it would be wrong to claim that. So I will keep coming back. I will be held to account. But the work that Calvin has done in corrections, that is laying change for the future where we will see a difference over time. The work that we're doing on papakainga housing will create a difference for future generations. The work we're doing in health, these are systematic changes, big changes that will take time, but I'm proud of them.
And what about the...
Be implemented though? It's been recommended for quite a long time now.
Yeah, well, actually, we had a report initially that proposed a range of changes. We've really questioned whether or not it's gone far enough. And so that's a discussion we're having as a team. You can expect to hear more from us as we shape up some of those future plans.
Sorry, you're not going to go with the recommendation initially?
Oh, we're being opening to challenging ourselves as to whether or not it's going to achieve the change we need.
So does that mean then that you would move back the idea of Māori delivery for Māori in health?
Again, when we're at a point where we're able, challenged with the idea that we haven't had that within our system. The question is whether or not we've had it sufficiently. And so look, at the point where we've got a little more to say on that, we will. But we have heard the calls for change. You only have to look at, for instance, the work of our Cancer Control Agency to see the significant inequities that exist in health outcomes for Māori in New Zealand. We have to do something about that.
So are you saying you would go further than the recommendation in the Simpson report?
I'm saying that we've been very open to debating whether or not it's going to achieve what we need. When we've got to a place where we're ready to announce, we will.
Prime Minister, you're making learning Maori history mainstream. Would you consider giving schools funding to make waka mainstream?
Well, you can certainly, I hope you can certainly see that over the course of this government, we have wanted to see an increase in participation in waka. You've seen that it's been present, of course, here. I visited the waka camps every year, but we've also ensured that as part of Tuia 250, it was really integrated Off the back of that, we wanted to keep support with funding, the work that was done with Waka from there, and we've done that. Let's keep talking about how we can continue to foster it in New Zealand.
Personally, would you like to see Waka be a mainstream sport like rugby, like soccer?
Oh, would I like to see a lift in participation? Absolutely. You know, physical activity generally, we know it's good for our children. Waka, I've seen that it is firsthand that it's not just about a recreational activity. It teaches so much more than that. So I'd love to see that uptake increase. Oh, go ahead.
No, we were just discussing that wakaama is one of the fastest growing sports in New Zealand. So it's got a lot of support behind it, and I'm sure the funding bodies will look at that.
Who has joined Maitahu in challenging the Crown in court over freshwater rights. Are you concerned about that?
The parting of the sea here.
I'll just part the water for Minister Parker to come forward.
No, actually. I think that everyone should be able to explore their legal rights in court. These are complex issues. I've actually encouraged people who feel that they've got legal rights that are being ignored to take their claims. We are, of course, in a separate process involving Maoridom in our attempts to address water allocation. Last term in the water space, we dealt primarily with water quality, and our promise was that this year we would move on to water allocation. Maoridom have formed a group for us to liaise with. We're also liaising with agricultural and council groups, and we hope to advance those issues.
Have you made any progress with the companies dumping sewage or contaminated water into the waterways, and the inability or barriers for councils to councils not thinking that they can follow it up or prosecute?
Well, in respect of trade waste, the enforcement obligation lies primarily on councils. In order to encourage them to do what they ought to be doing, we have given some funding to the EPA to stand alongside them and help them do it.
But have you done anything about the legal loophole that they claim is there, and that actually they need help from central government to be able to allow them to prosecute more easily?
I'm not convinced that the law allows illegal discharges, so I won't take that one at face value.
So what impact will this court action and potentially any other iwi joining it on freshwater have on the government's own freshwater reform and RMA plans?
The government's a large beast. We can deal with both of those avenues at the same time, and I don't think it will be disruptive.
So you won't need to halt anything?
No, I don't think so. Indeed, I think it could be helpful to delineate the extremes of the argument.
The tribunal's already said that Māori have rights akin to proprietorship, I think was the wording they used, over water. Do you accept that judgment?
I'll approach it this way. I think the first in, first served rule and automatic rollover, which excludes people from water who need it, is wrong and has to be addressed, and it will be.
We actually need to move to the next thing. Any other questions that cannot be asked?
Oh, Andrew, a rare intervention in the stand-up. All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much. Just grab my bag. Thank you.
No, we're running late.
Oh, Gary.